Welcome to Dr Joe Unplugged. The topics discussed in this podcast will reflect my opinions and are not in any way to be regarded as medical advice. Yep. Here's another one from the Science Catches Up with Reality file. We've had a few of these over the journey. For weight loss, diet may matter more than exercise. Hello. Diet and exercise are important for those of you wanting to manage and or lose weight. But unless you're doing exercise on a level like they used to be on that TV show, The Biggest Loser, by itself, it is not going to do the trick. For a very simple reason. You can exercise for an hour, and that's a good thing to do, and certainly recommend people do regular exercise, obviously. You might burn up 600 or 700 calories. Great, fantastic. You then go and I'm not saying that people you would do this, but people could then go and get a donut and a can of soft drink, and all those calories come back. Now, most people are going to need somewhere between 1,400 and 1,800 calories per day just to keep their systems going. To lose weight, obviously, you need to take in less calories than that. But the fact that exercise may use up a few hundred calories per hour, and that the daily calorie intake for some people is probably well and above 2,000 calories, that's where you get the biggest bang for your buck. Now, if you're chewing up a lot of energy, and it was estimated that Michael Phelps, the US swimmer, I think from the 90s and 2000s, at the peak of his training would consume 12,000 calories per day. Well, he was burning them all up. If he consumed 12,000 calories per day now, he'd sort of be a lot bigger than he was in his playing days. If any of us consume 12,000 calories per day without doing an inordinate amount of physical activity, yeah, you know how we're going to end up looking. But this is obvious. This has been known for a long time. Again, the World Health Organization is sort of vaguely catching up with reality in this one instance. People trying to lose weight are advised to increase their activity levels, but a new study found that reducing the number of calories may be more important. Of course it's more important. You can slash your calorie intake by a third or a half, again, depending what your start point is. Exercise is very, very good for your health. Excellent for your health for a whole host of reasons, both physical and mental. But by itself, I said before, unless you're doing a significant amount, well beyond what most people are going to be able to do through our busy lives, then it's what goes on in the kitchen that makes the difference, and what you put into your mouth. Again, a study suggests high rates of obesity associated with economic development are most likely caused by a high-calorie diet containing a large proportion of ultra-processed foods. Again, fairly recent development in human history is ultra-processed foods. Now, the term does get argued about. An apple that comes off the tree, or a carrot, or a lamb chop, or fish, in its actual form is unprocessed. Water is also unprocessed. Consider corn on the cob versus corn flakes. Clearly something has been done to convert the corn on the cob into cornflakes, and it's processing. Now, foods that come in boxes and packages typically are processed, and some significantly processed. Where one draws the line between processed and ultra-processed, people can and do argue about that, but I think we can all recognise it when we see it. It could be claimed, and I think fair enough, that bread is a processed food. Somebody's had to make it. You can make it yourself at home if you like. Same with cakes and biscuits. There is some processing. You collect raw ingredients and you make it into a food. Ultra-processed will obviously be made in factories, usually with a large number of ingredients. And when you look on the labels, you'll often see the list is quite a long one and include a whole lot of numbers. And these are additives and preservatives. And part of the reason they have numbers is if they had their whole chemical name, the list would probably take up half the pack. tells you something as well. Michael Pollan, a food writer, had a very simple tip. Eat foods that your grandmother or great-grandmother, depending upon your age, would recognise as food. It's not that difficult. And if you look at the ingredients on a box or package, and you don't see that which you might ordinarily have in your pantry or fridge at home, then also maybe think twice. Now, it's not across the board. Again, we live in the 21st century. It's, there is such a thing as convenience, and sometimes, these processed foods do have a role. We are on the run, but it's a matter of how much we eat of them. And they're typically high in sugars. And one of the reasons they're high in sugars is thanks to our friends at Big Public Health, who scared everybody off eating fats and the introduction of the low-fat dietary guidelines in the 1980s. They have lots of sugar because then they get a few ticks or stars or elephant stamps. And everybody's told that it's healthy, but it's not. Is it unsafe? Of course it's not unsafe. This stuff isn't toxic, not in the immediate sense, but it's not good for us either. So we need to minimise the amount of ultra-processed foods because typically they provide a lot of sugar without filling us up, so we're then hungry again. And again, it's a little bit of a side, but it's important. When we get glucose into our bloodstream, the body produces insulin from the pancreas to get the glucose out of the bloodstream. And if we have too much glucose for too long, the body becomes resistant to the insulin, hence the term insulin resistance, and that's the first step towards type 2 diabetes. Again, 4,213 adults in the study. They did the usual stuff, 34 populations, 6 continents. Oh, look, it's fine. I don't know who funded this, but it is the obvious. So we do have a lot more people who are overweight than we had 50 years ago. And we've spoken previously about the introduction of the low-fat dietary guidelines and how the aim in 1976 was to reduce obesity, which was about a tenth in terms of the percentage of the population what it is today. So it's been an abject failure, the steps that were taken. You can take steps yourself if you feel that your weight is more than what you would like it to be. Then it is about changing eating patterns. Diets don't necessarily work defined as, yes, you will lose weight whilst you're on them, but then if you go back to eating exactly what you ate before, you'll end up where you started. And people, do get surprised by this, but when you think about it logically, it shouldn't come as a surprise that if you repeat the same approach twice, you end up at the same point. So changing eating patterns rather than going on a diet is the way to go. And that changed eating patterns is really typically looking at reducing carbohydrates and processed, and in particular ultra-processed foods. Our ancestors ate what they could gather and what they could catch, and they could gather a little bit more than they could catch. So what should we be eating? Meat, fish, chicken, vegetable proteins if you're that way inclined. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, berries. Drink mainly water. Those are the basics. And yes, we can have things like bread, probably not too much. Rice is also okay. Probably rice would be classed as a grain. But we really want to be cutting down on the amount of grains in general that we're eating because they're way too high in carbohydrates. And we've seen in the real world what's happened when people are told to increase that content. Eggs have got a bad rap over the years. That's now been crab walked away from, and eggs are fine. Dairy is fine. If you don't like dairy, don't have it, but it's okay. It's not complicated. If you drive a big car, it's going to need more to fill up the tank than if you drive a small car. Depending upon your individual size configuration and how much energy you burn up through the day will also determine how much energy you need to put in. Some people do need more food to keep them going than others. Some people, if they eat a little bit more, they'll put on weight more quickly. We're all put together differently. It's just the way it is. It's not right or wrong or fair or not fair. It is what it is. But you can listen to your own body and you can be guided by the results you get. It's not difficult. It's conceptually not difficult. And I would contend that it's not difficult to do. That people don't do it is not necessarily because it's not difficult. It just, if it's not important enough to you, then fine. It's okay. But it's not conceptually difficult. We can all eat sensibly, in inverted commas. We can all eat in a similar vein to our ancestors and focus on real food. If you want a simple approach, most supermarkets shop around the perimeter. Eat foods that if you didn't freeze them or eat them, you probably need to throw them out in a week or two. And these are simple principles to guide your decisions when you're going to buy your food. And obviously, apart from the type of food, the amounts vary as well. And it doesn't matter how much or how little you think you're eating, it's what your body's telling you that matters. So if you think I don't eat a lot, but I'm not losing weight, okay, it's not right or wrong. It's just a matter of accepting that to lose weight or reduce weight, you're going to need to have less than what you're currently doing, no matter how much or how little you may think that is, and certainly doesn't matter how much or how little in relation to anybody else. Keep it simple. That the researchers have caught up with the obvious, again, happens from time to time, is nice, it's useful, but for you as an individual, you have the capacity to take matters into your own hands and decide what is in your own best interests and how you want to go about your eating patterns. Thanks for listening to Dr. Joe Unplugged. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, share, and consider subscribing. Tell your friends. If there are topics you'd like to see covered, be in touch through the chat or email info@drjoe.net.au. We'll be uploading new content each Monday, and soon we'll be putting these videos out on X. You can follow me there at Dr. Joe's DIY Health.